Hello and welcome to our webinar, Must Read Mysteries. I'm Annie Bostrom, Associate Editor for Adult Books at Booklist. Before we begin, I'd like to go over some technical details. Links to today's slide presentation and title list were included in the reminder email you received from Zoom an hour ago. To download them, please open that email, scroll to the bottom, and click on the links located there. You can also download the slides and title list by copying the URLs on this screen into your browser. If you have any trouble, please contact us at webinars@booklistonline.com. The audience is in listen-only mode today, but we welcome any questions you may have. On the bottom of your screen is a toolbar with a section for Q&A. If you have a question or need any technical assistance, simply click Q&A and type your message into the box that appears. We will do our best to respond to all tech-related questions, and we'll pass along all other questions to today's panelists so they can follow up with you after the webinar. Finally, Booklist offers closed captioning on all webinars. To enable or disable captions on your screen, please look for and click the live transcript icon on the toolbar mentioned earlier. From there, you can select Show or Hide Subtitles from the menu that appears. If you choose to enable subtitles, you can adjust the size of the captions at any time by selecting Subtitle Settings. Today, we have the pleasure of hearing from Joanne Grant, publisher of Severn House, Erica Loberg, publicist at Soho Press, Kendra Martin, Sales and Marketing Manager at Dundurn Press, and Faith Matson, Marketing and Publicity Director at Oceanview Publishing. First up, we'll hear from Joanne Grant. Joanne joined Severn House as publisher in October 2021. She previously spent 16 years working at Harlequin, most recently as editorial director of Harlequin's global series business, managing a team of 38 editors and overseeing the publication of almost 800 romance titles a year. She left Harlequin in summer 2019 to run her own business, coaching writers of all genres. Thanks for joining us today, Joanne.
Thank you. It's absolutely fantastic to be here with you from a very hot UK. I'm based just three miles down the road from Hampton Court, and I can tell you it is steamy and hot today, but I'm keeping cool and I'm ready to tell you about some hot books we've got coming up. So let's start with the first slide. First up, we've got The Fragrance of Death by Leslie Cast. This is a new to Severn House author, but continues the Sally Solari mysteries with book number 5. So restaurateur Sally Solari has a nose for trouble, but when her sense of smell goes missing, it's not just her career on the line, it's her life. So when her old acquaintance is murdered at an annual artichoke cook-off, yes, that makes sense of the artichokes on the cover, she plunges headfirst into the case. This is a cozy culinary for fans of Rita Mae Brown, Darcy Hannah, and Lucy Burdett, and we're absolutely thrilled to be publishing Leslie Cast with Severn House for the first time. Next slide, please. Next up, we've got Best Practices. This is a Nora Best mystery by Glenn Florio. This is her 3rd book in this series and features another amateur female sleuth. So a job in a wilderness therapy program for a troubled teen seems like the perfect way for Nora Best to ease into her next phase of life, until she uncovers that the program has some flagrant abuses of power and they are trying to keep it secret. This is a tense and claustrophobic mystery and features a strong female lead that will appeal to fans of Laura Lippman's Tess Monaghan series. And as you can tell, the cover is very tense and creepy. This is a great one. Okay, next slide. Oh, so now we're into historical mysteries. This is Deadly Spirits by Mary Miley. This is book 3 in her Mystic's Accomplice mystery. Set in 1920s Illinois, the main protagonist is a medium's assistant and reluctant sleuth. That's our Maddie Pasteur. And she's shocked when her long-lost sister is accused of murder in this twisty, atmospheric mystery set in 1920s Chicago. When you read that book, you're really thrown back into in time. And what's really fantastic about this story is that it features real-life historical figures, such as notorious gangster Al Capone, as well as pioneering detective Alice Clement, the first female police detective in Chicago. This is one not to miss. Okay, next slide. So wait, if you want something a bit more contemporary, a bit more thriller, maybe a little bit more macho, we've got book number 30 in the Henry Christie Mysteries by Nick Oldham. This is a police procedural set in Lancaster, UK. And what makes Nick's book so fantastic and so authentic is that he had a 30-year career with the Yorkshire Police that ensures the crime novels offer readers a fascinating glimpse into the realities of police investigations. And as someone who's married to a detective herself, I can say these are spot on in terms of that realistic look. So this story has got secrets, lies, murder, and planning permission. And Henry Christie is pulled into 2 chilling murder investigations and uncovers dark secrets dating back to the Second World War in this unflinching thriller. Okay, next. Oh, I just love this cover. It's so fantastic. This is a thriller suspense by Mark Alpert, The Doomsday Show. This is an action-packed environmental thriller. He's an internationally best-selling author of Final Theory. And this features a good-hearted climate activist who must stop terrorists from assassinating the worst fossil fuel tycoons. This feels very current, very now. And for fans of Michael Crichton, Mark Alpert sort of does that twist and makes the future seem like a realistically scary place. Okay, next. So something still really great, but maybe not as tense. Yeah, it's got tension. But this is the lovely David Hewson launching a new series set in beautiful Venice. But as beautiful as it is, it's a bit eerie, it's a bit creepy. And this starts a new series featuring an unlikely hero. Arnold Clover is a retired archivist. He's off in Venice. He's not looking for trouble. But when a British TV historian is found murdered in the canals of Venice during Carnival, the Venetian police just want it cleared up as soon as possible. And I'm like, hey, come on, Arnold, help solve this. So, and there's links to the 500-year-old murderer, Lorenzo Dimitri. Really atmospheric, classic crime and mystery. Next, please. I just love this cover. Had a lot of fun making sure the fox was on it. This is A Fox in the Fold by Candice Robb, as she continues her ever popular Owen Archer mystery, which are medieval mysteries set in Yorkshire. So Owen Archer suspects that an old adversary is on his tail as he seeks to solve the mystery surrounding a dead body found on the road to York. And it's not a very pleasant body that's found. It is bloodied and stripped, as often these medieval things can be. So this is for readers of, well, if you're a fan of Candice Robb already, of course, readers of another Severn House favourite, Paul Doherty and C.J. Sampson. Next slide. Okay, Murder at the Jubilee Rallies by Terry Shames, Severn House. Also incredibly excited to be publishing Terry Shames, who is new to Severn House. This is book 9 in her Samuel Craddock mystery. It's a police procedural set in a rural town in Texas. So the chief of police, Samuel Craddock, faces a race against time to solve a perplexing murder at a motorcycle rally and needs to solve it before the rally comes to an end. It's really it's fun, it's tense, it's twist filled, and really wonderful new addition to the Severn House line. She's an award-winning author and will suit fans of Stephen Haval and Bill Kreider. Okay, now onto something different. Next up, we've got And Justice for Maul. Do love a pun. This is a Jersey Girl legal mystery by E.J. Copperman. And we like to think of it as for fans of Perry Mason, but with a little bit of mayhem. So think Hollywood house hunting and hand grenades. So life terms explosive for New Jersey prosecutor turned LA family lawyer Sandy Moss when she takes an unexpected new client, a preteen millionaire Riley Schonenberg. I tell you, this is a lot of fun. It will keep you reading. It's low-level threat, it's a cozy, but I love that little bit of mayhem that Sandy Moss brings to these. Okay, next. Okay, this is, Jeannie M. Dams, she is ever popular. This is her 25th book in the Dorothy Martin mystery. So if you're looking for something really cozy, you're looking for something for, if you're a fan of Agatha Christie and Dorothy L. Sayers, you'll really enjoy her books. And A Deadly Web is no exception. It's an utterly entertaining, incredibly intriguing, cozy set mystery in a fictional cathedral town of Cherbury, the type of place you'd all love to visit. So when Alan's unofficial great niece, Lucy Bowman, arrives from the States and can't wait to meet her fiance, Ian, it all seems fine until Ian is the victim of a hit and run. Now, Dorothy learns that he wasn't all he seemed to be. So can she separate fact from fiction to untangle a deadly web of lies in this wonderfully cozy mystery? And then we've got our final slide. Last but no means least, we are incredibly excited to be publishing Adam Oyebanji's A Quiet Teacher. This is only Adam's second book. His debut was published earlier this year, and that was a sci-fi book by a different publisher called Breaking Day, published to high acclaim. But we were thrilled when he brought this classic amateur sleuth, spy meets a little bit of a Cold War vibe. It brought this to Severn House. We knew we just had to buy it. It's a spin on a classic mystery with echoes of Graham Greene, executed with a unique contemporary voice. So a teacher is trying to hide in the shadows, and he finds himself embroiled in a murder investigation in this compelling and fresh read from a new, unique contemporary voice. So if you're looking for classic done in a contemporary way, this is your book. You will not be disappointed. And that's me done. For once, I don't think I've overrun. Here are my details. I'd love to hear from you if you have any questions. And I always love to talk about our wonderful books here at Severn House. So thank you very much for your time and your patience as you listen to me talk through these wonderful books. I hope to hear from you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Joanne. Next up is Erica Loberg. Erica is a publicist at Soho Press in New York City. Take it away, Erica.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm so happy to be here. I have a wonderful, diverse array of compelling titles to share with you today. These are going to be from August throughout the rest of the fall. All of these are available for request on NetGalley and Edelweiss, but you're always welcome to email us directly, of course, with any questions or specific requests. So with that, I will get started. First up, in August, we have Shutter, which is an exciting debut by an Indigenous author of the Navajo Nation. Ramona Emerson is an award-winning, well-connected Dene filmmaker in New Mexico who does excellent documentary work centering Indigenous experiences with her company, Real Indian Pictures. So while Shutter is her debut novel, she is a seasoned storyteller who's really honed the craft of capturing the essence of a person on their journey, where they come from and their identity and everything, which is something that shines through beautifully with the main character in her novel. As you'll see on the slide, Tommy Orange calls Shutter utterly unputdownable, and I could not agree more. You really just need to, if you read the first chapter, you'll see how her writing is just perfectly paced and has all these intriguing little details, really grabs your attention from the first page, and it immerses you in this blood-chilling story set in the heart of New Mexico's Navajo Nation. The story follows Rita Torachin, who is a forensic photographer working with the Albuquerque police. Rita is known for capturing things that other people usually overlook at crime scenes, but they end up proving essential to solving these cases. But Rita has a secret, and that is that she sees the ghosts of victims, and they usually point her towards those essential clues. So as helpful as that sounds, when these spirits figure out that Rita can see them, they often harass and nag Rita in their desperation for help and justice. And even more problematic, in Navajo culture, death and spirits are really taboo. So Rita's ability has ostracized her from her community and driven her away from her home on the Navajo reservation and her grandmother who raised her. In Shutter, Rita encounters an especially persistent ghost who can't remember how she died, but insists that she was murdered, and her quest for help embroils Rita in a journey involving local cartels and other dangers. So this is a pulse-pounding, unrelenting thriller with strong shades of horror and paranormal and Stephen King kind of vibes. But at its heart, it's also a beautifully written coming-of-age story about a young Navajo woman who is making sense of her identity and her ability and her place in the world. And it offers an insightful portrait of life on the Navajo reservation. Fans of Jessica Jones will also be captivated by this story. of an ordinary young woman who has to reconcile with this special ability that she has and face impossible circumstances, and she has to become a superhero because of it. This is a fantastic book for fans of crime fiction, supernatural horror, and Native American fiction, of course. And if you enjoy this one, you'll be excited to know that this is the first novel in a planned trilogy. And if you're going to ALA next week, we hope you'll come see us. Ramona will be there with us doing a panel and a signing. So please come visit Soho at booth 1919 to find out more and to meet this amazing author. Next, we have, speaking of drug cartels, this October we have Cruz, which is Nicolas Ferraro's English language debut, translated from Spanish by Mallory and Craig Kuhn. Nicolas is an Argentinian writer who lives in Buenos Aires, and Cruz is set in the wilds of Argentina. And the Spanish language version of this was a finalist for the prestigious Dashiell Hammett Award in 2017. So we're really excited to bring this book to English language readers for the first time and introduce Nicolas in the US. So I mentioned drug cartels, and let me just say, if you are a Don Winslow diehard, or if you binge watched Narcos or Breaking Bad, you will devour this book in one sitting. It is so dark, so gritty, gruesome, thrilling, and the writing is really wonderful here too, just captivating prose. This is noir by a writer who lives in this intense space in every page, and he's clearly been devoted to the genre. So before I tell you what it's about, I just want to kind of set the stage and give you a flavor of the reading experience here, just by, I'm going to read some snippets from the blurbs so you can kind of see what it's like to read this book. So Vicki Hendricks says, Ferraro shapes the darkest horrors of depravity into an engaging plot with a stunning climax, and the emotional impact resonates long after the final twist. Gavino Iglesias says, Cruz is a grimy, gritty, hyper-violent novel that says, I love you with its middle finger, and you'll love every minute of it. Jordan Harper says, as cold and shocking as a gun barrel against your neck, Cruz is about the blood you share with family and the blood you spill because of it. So this is really, really intense. Cruz is a harrowing story about two brothers and their father, their relationships to one another, and the unrelenting violent hold of the cartel on all of them. So the younger brother, Tomas, has always sworn that he would never be like his father, Samuel, who is an abusive cocaine junkie infamous across the underbelly of Argentina for his gang exploits. When Samuel is sentenced to prison, he leaves a list of unfinished cartel business behind, and his older son, Seba, has no choice but to sacrifice his honest life to take over his father's dirty debts. 15 years later, Seba is arrested too, and the cartel boss takes his wife and daughter hostage. So now younger brother Tomas faces a decision between staying away from all of this to protect his own family, or giving up his soul to the cartel like his brother and father did to take care of their unfinished business. So Tomas reluctantly ends up getting involved, and we follow him on this bloody quest through some really twisted places in Argentina's criminal underworld. And he discovers himself capable of violence he never thought possible. And he has to confront who he is and how he sees himself in relation to his horrible father. Cruz is thrilling, of course. It delivers intense action scenes and shootouts, and it tells a layered story of identity, escaping toxic family, and finding your own freedom. This is great for fans of noir, literature and translation, and as a bonus, it's set at Christmas time, so it has very Die Hard-esque vibes for all the John McClane fans out there. Next. Also in October, we have Sinister Graves by the amazing Marcy Rendon. This is the third book in the acclaimed Cash Black Bear mysteries, which were previously published by Cinco Puntos Press, but we are so lucky to have acquired them at Soho Crime now. And we just republished the first two books in paperback. So the first book, Murder on the Red River, won a Pinkley Prize for crime fiction and was the One Book, One Minnesota statewide read selection last year. The second book, Girl Gone Missing, was nominated for the Sue Grafton Award. And this third book, new in hardcover this fall, continues that tradition of excellent storytelling in an authentic Anishinaabe voice. Marcy is an amazing, impressive figure. She's a member of the White Earth Nation and lives in Minnesota. And she writes across every medium, and she is a known champion for social justice and arts activism. She was just in Toronto on a panel about the ethics of writing crime fiction. So not only does she write in Louise Erdrichsworth's addictive mysteries, but she actively engages in thought and conversation about the impact of those stories and how they're told. So a little bit more about the Cash Black Bear series. These are suspenseful mysteries set in 1970s Minnesota that deftly weave together true Native American history, fast-paced murder mysteries, atmospheric Midwestern settings, and elements of the supernatural, with our main character, Cash Black Bear, who is a tough-as-nails Ojibwe woman who was raised in foster care, which we learn a lot about in book one. And as she's navigating life and college and relationships and independence, she helps her friend / guardian, Sheriff Wheaton, solve local crimes through her intuition and occasional visions. So in Sinister Graves, an unknown Native woman's mysterious death leads Cash to a suspicious, culty kind of small town church. And in the graveyard, Cash finds a couple of unmarked graves that raise her suspicions. So you may be familiar with the news stories that broke in the past year about the horrendous discoveries of hundreds of unmarked graves found at Native boarding schools from the past centuries in North America. While Sinister Graves isn't about a boarding school itself, the graves in the story and in the title are very much connected to that history and legacy. In Marcy's author's note for this book, she writes, while the story isn't about a boarding school, it is about the twisted minds of people for whom Native children are expendable. And what's really special about Sinister Graves and these books is how Marcy weaves elements like these unmarked graves with all the loaded history and emotion around them into these super readable, well-written mysteries that you pick up and you don't want to put down until you finished. Cash is such a compelling character with all her grit, her intelligence, and her flaws, and it's such an incredible journey getting to know her and follow her throughout this series. I highly recommend that fans of mysteries and Indigenous fiction dive into this series, or you can jump straight into Sinister Graves as a standalone. Next, we have an exciting anthology, Witnesses for the Dead, edited by our own Gary Phillips and Gar Anthony Haywood. You may recognize Gary Phillips from the excellent book we just published by him, One Shot Harry, which came out in April to huge acclaim with praise from NPR's Fresh Air, Sarah Weinman at the New York Times Book Review, Tom Nolan at Wall Street Journal. Pretty much every top crime fiction reviewer loved that book. One Shot Harry was, of course, not Gary's first foray into crime fiction. He's one of those people who's been writing for a long time. He writes a lot of mysteries set in Los Angeles and centering African-American experiences with strong ties to civil rights. He's a master of the genre. He's often compared to Walter Mosley and James Ellroy, and he's one of those all-around good guys. He kind of draws you in with his deep, booming voice, and then his personality just wins everyone over, and people just kind of gravitate towards him. This new project is a collaboration with another talented veteran of the genre, Gar Anthony Haywood, who has won the Seamus and Anthony Awards and written over a dozen novels, as well as short fiction and writing for television. So Witnesses for the Dead. This is a really special, thought-provoking project inspired by real-life events and social justice issues that all of us have witnessed in the news. The premise for this anthology is that in every short story, a character witnesses a crime being committed, and as they decide what to do, whether that's taking action, intervening, or just sitting back and letting things slide, we see how their lives, just by witnessing this crime, end up being indelibly changed. These stories span a wide array of years, countries, subjects, and perspectives. They delve into moments like World War II and even the COVID-19 pandemic. Some are very personal and introspective, like a story called Envy, where a sweet wallflower kind of character witnesses a horrific act in his neighborhood and as a result discovers something horrific about himself. Others are more expansive and political, like Gary Phillips' contribution here, which confronts police corruption. And there's another story where a character's investigation of a stranger's murder leads her to question the entire political structure of Taiwan. So as you can see on this slide, Gar and Gary have signed on a diverse array of 14 top-notch crime fiction authors, including Kara Black, Alex Segura, S.J. Roseanne, and so many more. Each author has contributed a completely original story that has never been published before. So this anthology delivers completely new content from some of today's most decorated crime fiction authors. We're really excited to have it on the Soho Crime list. It's really timely as it covers a wide range of topics and issues that reflect our real world and contemporary news. So this is not only great for fans of mysteries and these incredible authors, but also a compelling read for anyone who's passionate about social justice and advocacy. Next slide. Finally, I just wanted to quickly mention a couple of new books and some favorite Soho Crime series. And I apologize, but we do have a couple of typos with the pub dates on this slide. Everything's updated online, but just so you know, Death on a Winter Stroll comes out on November 1st and Murder on the Vine comes out on September 13th. So Death on a Winter Stroll is a new Mary Folger Nantucket mystery by Francine Matthews, who also writes the Jane Austen mysteries under the name Stephanie Barron. This is book 7 in a fantastic New England series set in Nantucket, and it takes place during the holiday season and the COVID pandemic. So there are a lot of interesting hooks with this one. And if you haven't read this series before, Death on a Winter Stroll is a great place to start. Our editor actually said that this is the best book she's ever read by Francine, which speaks volumes to the skill and unstoppable momentum of an author who's really at the top of her game. New in the Tuscan Mystery series, we have Murder on the Vine, again, which comes out in September. This is book 3 after The Bitter Taste of Murder and Murder in Chianti. These are super readable procedurals featuring an ex-NYPD detective who now lives in Italy. So of course, there are tons of rich, wonderful descriptions of the Italian landscape and delicious food and wine, kind of everything you would expect from a really great Italian set mystery. Perfect for armchair travelers during these continuously chaotic times. And that is all that I have for you. So thank you so much for paying attention. Again, please feel free to write with any requests or questions about any of these titles. And I hope you enjoy, have a chance to dip in and enjoy all of these. Thank you.
Thank you, Erica. Our next presenter today will be Kendra Martin. Kendra is the sales and marketing manager for Dundurn Press in Toronto. She loves reading mysteries and thrillers, especially atmospheric police procedurals with lots of character development. Thanks for being here, Kendra.
Thank you so much. Hi, it's great to be here today talking about some mystery. We've got some standalone thrillers, and we've also got true crime picks from Dundurn Press. So next slide. I'm going to start off with 2 mystery series from a real star writer on our list, Barbara Fradkin. Wreck Bay is the 5th mystery featuring amateur sleuth Amanda Doucette, and the series takes Amanda to different gorgeous and wild areas of Canada's vast environment, where she inevitably gets sucked into a murder mystery. Wreck Bay takes us to the ruggedly beautiful rainforests of the islands off the Pacific Northwest, Vancouver Island. And so a similar title, similar to Jane Harper's excellent mysteries that center the wilderness of Australia. This is perfect for nature lovers who really enjoy as well a gripping murder mystery steeped in the rich and foreboding natural world, as well who might want to explore the wonders of Canada's natural environment. So in this outing, the plot kicks off when a surfer washes up dead not far from the cabin of a reclusive artist. Ever curious, Amanda investigates the possible connection between the dead surfer, the artist, as well as a painting of a young hippie woman. When Amanda uncovers a surprising connection from the past, we reach our exciting conclusion, which involves a manhunt by boat during a brewing storm. So you should really give this series to fans of Jane Harper or Tana French, and they'll definitely thank you for that. Wreck Bay is coming out in January 2023, but definitely don't wait to get started on the earlier books in series. 2 of them received starred reviews in Publishers Weekly. Next, we have the 2nd series I'm going to mention from Barbara Fradkin. This time she's writing a police procedural, and she's been writing this for several years, but we are really excited to be reissuing the first 5 books in the series in October. They're going to be trade paperback now with a brand new cover designs that the look of them will match the latest books in the series. So in book 1, Do or Die, we meet homicide detective Michael Green as he tackles the biggest case of his career. A young grad student, the scion of a rich family, is found expertly stabbed in the stacks of the university library. As Green probes into the circumstances of the young man's life, a tangled web of jealousy and intrigue is revealed. Green finds himself in the middle of a rivalry in the delicate arena of university politics, where gigantic egos regularly collide. Barbara Fradkin, she's a retired psychologist herself, and so she really lends her insight into the human condition and the motives behind crimes. And her novels are so character-driven that you really love both the secondary characters as well as Michael Green, our protagonist. And if you have fans of Louise Penny or Michael Connolly, hungry to start a new series, I think you'll find your match with Inspector Green. And so the new reissues of the first 5 books are going to be available in October. Next, It's hard for me to pick favorites, but C.S. O'Kennedy is always really first on my to-read list from Dundurn Titles. So fresh off her nomination for a Mystery Writers of America Edgar Award for her Candace Starr series, we have a new upcoming thriller. Eve's Rib is a domestic thriller that blends suspense with a touch of black magic and witchcraft, with a major theme of mother-daughter relationships. So this is set in present day, and it's told in 3 alternating perspectives. We have Eve, her cheating husband, and her bad seed teenage daughter, and they all lend their perspective to the narrative. Eve's Rib has many comparisons to The Push by Ashley Audrain, a similar book of domestic suspense that examines the darker side of family relationships, especially between a mother and a daughter. And I just love that Eve's Rib has this witchy vibes to it, and I would recommend this to fans of Lisa Jewell, Ruth Ware, and Sherry Lapina. And I am going to have print advanced copies available at ALA Annual, so please do stop by the booth there, or you can get in touch with me if you're not going to be at the show. And Eve's Rib releases in October. Next, I have another thriller. Blood Atonement is a psychological thriller for fans of Karen Slaughter and Lisa Unger, and it features an unreliable narrator who suffers from dissociative identity disorder. The reader is left wondering throughout if Grace is the murderer or the next victim. In writing the story, the author was actually inspired by true events. There were allegations of abuse in a polygamous fundamentalist Mormon community up here in BC. So in the novel, we meet Grace. As a young child, she escaped from a compound of fundamentalist Mormon community. And the loyalists, including her family, actually committed suicide in order to avoid jail. So now Grace is a grown-up and other escapees are dying one by one. And Grace is trying to discover if one of her alter personalities is the murderer, or is she going to be the next victim? So there's so much drama in this, and there's an amazing twist at the end that you just didn't see coming. I really highly recommend picking up this DRC. It releases in November. Next, moving on to something a little more lighthearted. Umboy Island is the third in a cozy mystery series set in the bizarre and fascinating world of mythical creature hunting. So think Bigfoot, Loch Ness Monster, and so on. So in Umboy Island, this is set on the remote island off of Papua New Guinea. And our protagonist, Laura Regan, and her documentary crew are investigating the myths of a pterodactyl-like creature when their crew discovers a dead body. And they're also threatened by drug smugglers on the island. The Creature X series does an excellent job of blending science and skepticism along with paranormal intrigue into a cozy mystery package. The monsters in each book are entertained as a possibility, but there's always a rational human explanation for the murder mystery. And of course, the intrigue of these mythical creatures lives on by the book's end. Next, I invite you to journey with me to an alternate version of 1930s Depression-era Manhattan. Dark All Day is a gritty, hard-boiled sci-fi mystery set in a different world where technological advances have enabled cheap robotic labor and wondrous innovations, but have caused a great divide between the rich and poor. The rich live in this upper city Manhattan in a world suspended above the ground that blocks the sun for those less fortunate to live in the lower city. Our jaded and flawed hero is Elias Roche, a former cop turned private eye, and he is investigating the very first murder in the upper city. The prime suspect is a robot who is scientifically proven to be incapable of murder. The stakes are very high, with the fate of all the robots is hanging on the balance of this investigation. The mob is also breathing down Roche's neck. So this is a great series. It's a trilogy, and this is the final outing. It's all about hard-boiled action, and I think we couldn't go wrong if you give this to fans of Jonathan Lethem, Philip K. Dick, or anyone who enjoyed the TV show Altered Carbon or the Blade Runner movies. Next, I'm going to slide into some true crime picks that we have coming out. So Bad Trips, How I Went from Vice Reporter to International Drug Smuggler, tells the story of a man with an outsized ego who worked at Vice Media and actually started a drug smuggling ring among his coworkers at Vice. Slava actually did go to prison for his crimes of smuggling drugs from the US into Australia. And so in this book, he tells that story. So as much as it is a really fascinating and interesting true crime story, it's also a really great insider look at the early days of Vice Media, when it was kind of like this Wild West where anything goes to get this story by these underpaid, overworked reporters who are just like hustling to get eyeballs on their content. And Bad Trips is available to order now. Next, The Castleton Massacre is written by two survivors of a family massacre that happened back in 1963. A former church minister killed his estranged wife, his sister, his daughter, and his stepdaughter all in one evening. And also two of those women were pregnant at the time they were killed. Co-author Margaret Carson witnessed her mother and sisters being murdered that night. And so over 50 years later, she and her cousin write this feminist true crime account of how society apologized and overlooked Robert Killen's escalating stalking and aggressive behavior that eventually led to the murders. They also examine the lasting effects of such a crime on the whole family. So not only is it a gripping true crime story, but it's also a feminist reclamation of these women's lives that were cut short by misogynistic violence. It will be available in August. Next, Deadly Triangle is a historical true crime story about the murder of a famous architect and the subsequent trial of his younger wife and her lover slash chauffeur. So this sensational murder trial was the O.J. Simpson trial of the 1930s. There was intense media scrutiny and controversy over the verdict when they were found guilty. There were a lot of salacious details emerging about the wife and her affair. And all told, this is a really riveting, so readable narrative. It's just really addictive. And I think any true crime reader, particularly those who love historical true crime, will just devour this one. It's going to be available in November. So next, I wanted to mention a final true crime story. This is a bit of a different spin on true crime. The Ghosts That Haunt Me is written by a former police homicide detective from Toronto. And so he's reflecting on 6 cases that really stuck with him over the years. He investigated over 100 cases of murder in his 10 years as a homicide detective, but obviously these are the ones that just stuck out for whatever reason for him. And the reader is invited into the mind of a homicide detective and really given insight into what goes through the detective's mind as he's investigating and dealing with all the people and the evidence and how to parse the sad traumatic events. The result is the story of 6 lesser-known Toronto murders, and it's really a tribute to both the victims as well as the whole investigating team that solved these crimes and eventually brought justice and solved all of them. Next slide. I just want to thank you so much for your time today. Any of these, if you would like to receive digital galleys, they are available on NetGalley or Edelweiss, or please email me. We're going to be at ALA next week at booth 2313 with some ARCs and tote bags and fun stuff, so I'd love to see you there. Thank you.
Thank you, Kendra. Our final presenter today will be Faith Matson. Faith joined Oceanview Publishing in October 2021, and she has worked as the Director of Marketing and Publicity since January of this year. Originally from Colorado, she moved east to Florida for college, graduating summa cum laude from Florida State University's Editing, Writing, and Media program. In her free time, Faith is a crossword puzzle enthusiast and houseplant fanatic. Take it away, Faith.
Hello, I am Faith from Oceanview Publishing, and I'm super excited to be here today to talk about some of our forthcoming titles. I have quite a few to cover, so I'm just going to go ahead and jump right in. So first, just a quick background on Oceanview. We've been recognized as one of the country's preeminent publishers of original mystery, thriller, and suspense titles. We have over 200 titles in our backlist, and we publish about 24 new books each year. Since 2006, we have continued to discover new authors with fresh voices. So without further ado, I proudly present our forthcoming titles. All right, first on my list is Wayward Son by Steve Goebel. This is the second book in his Ed Runyon mystery series, and it's set to go on sale August 2nd. Let me give you a quick synopsis. Ed Runyon, a former sheriff's deputy, is struggling to launch a PI agency in rural Ohio when he's hired to find a missing boy who is keeping secrets from his homophobic religious parents. The hunt leads Ed to a deadly and desperate confrontation. Everything comes down to determination and one very risky move. Ed cannot fail this time. In City Problems, the first book in this series did have a starred review from Publishers Weekly. The author has also had some favorable reviews in Library Journal, Criminal Element, Mystery Scene Magazine, and Alfred Hitchcock's Mystery Magazine. And let me tell you a little bit more about Steve Goebel. He is a lifelong Ohio resident and a former journalist. He now works for a digital investigations firm as he reinvents himself as a mystery novel writer. Wayward Son, like I said, is the second novel in the Ed Runyon crime fiction series following City Problems. Steve Goebel is also the author of the Spider John historical mysteries, and Steve lives in rural Ohio with his family and their 2 dogs. So like I said, Steve is a former journalist, and we think this book is perfect for fans of John Sanford and Robert Craze. And so next, we've got Line of Darkness by Max Tomlinson. This is the 4th book in his Colleen Hayes mystery series, set to go on sale August 16th. And let me tell you a little about the story. This is set in San Francisco in 1979. When ex-con PI Colleen Hayes is hired to find a missing person, she discovers an international vigilante group hunting down ex-Nazis. A World War II banknote and a 1942 SSID of a German officer long thought dead leads her to Italy, where she uncovers a secret project hatched in a concentration camp. Colleen has no choice but to push ahead if the killing is to stop and justice prevail. Now, this series is really highly acclaimed. The first in the series, Vanishing in the Hate, was a USA Today bestseller, and the second book in the series, Tie-Dye, received a starred review in Publishers Weekly. Now, the author, Max Tomlinson, does happen to be a San Francisco native, and since the book takes place in San Francisco, that does add a lot of authenticity to the setting. Let me tell you more about Max Tomlinson. USA Today bestselling author Max Tomlinson is a native of San Francisco. He is the author of a crime series set in South America, an international espionage series, and now the Colleen Hayes mystery series set in 1970s San Francisco. And Line of Darkness, like I said, is the 4th novel in this series following Bad Scene, Tie-Dye, and Vanishing in the Hate. This book is very noir and retro, set in San Francisco in the 70s and in post-Nazi years of Italy. Steve Barry called this book atmospheric and tense, and it's just so fitting that it's perfect for fans of Steve Barry and also for fans of Harlan Coben. And next up, we've got Mystic Wind by James Barretto, which is set to go on sale September 6th. And this is James Barretto's debut novel, and it's the first novel in an intended Jack Marino legal thriller series. So in this novel, former Boston prosecutor Jack Marino has a chance to resurrect his faltering career by defending an accused murderer in a high-profile death penalty case. But the corrupt forces determined to pin this murder on his client may have already given absolute immunity to the real killer. James Barretto, it's very fitting that he would write a legal thriller because he has some absolutely stunning legal credentials. Let me give you his bio. So James Barretto is a former appellate brief writer, assistant district attorney, defense attorney, assistant attorney general, and AG division chief. He has also served as a legal analyst for the local affiliate of a national cable news network and has appeared on national and international television as a legal analyst on a variety of subjects. And he is currently a judge on the Massachusetts District Court, and Mystic Wind is his first novel. So since James Barretto does happen to be a Boston native, he can also add that authenticity to the Mystic River setting. You'll really feel very immersed in the world that he's created. Steve Barry called this book lush, lusty, fascinating, and smart. And we think this is perfect for fans of John Grisham and Scott Turow. All right, and next on the list, we have Landslide by Adam Sykes. It goes on sale September 20th. And this is another debut novel, but this one is from an author with some pretty powerful connections to the intelligence community, which has definitely been woven into his plot. So in this book, US Marine veteran Mason Hackett tried to start over in London with a new career. He can't forgive himself for what happened 15 years ago, the people he killed, the men he lost, the lives he ruined. But when the face of his friend, long presumed dead, flashes on the news and he hears whispers of a botched CIA operation, Mason embarks on a perilous journey across Europe to the war-torn separatist region in Ukraine to honor an old promise. The answers he seeks, the fate of a friend, and his connection to the underworld of arms dealers and spies throw Mason into a covert war where no one can be trusted. So like I said, this author does have some strong connections to the intelligence community because he used to be a US Marine and a CIA officer. I can tell you more about him. Adam Sykes now is a novelist and a freelance writer. He's a graduate of Georgetown University with a degree in international politics and a master's in history. He served in the US Marine Corps with combat tours in Bosnia, Iraq, and elsewhere in the Middle East. And following the Marines, he joined the CIA and has conducted operations in Central Asia, East Africa, and Europe. And Landslide is his first Mason Hackett espionage thriller, and he lives in Southern California. So this series is intended to continue as an espionage series. And this book is inspired by true events from Adam Sykes' career, and it was cleared for publication by the CIA. And one important thing to note about this book is that many of the events in the novel involve some relations between Ukraine and Russia. And that's all from this US intelligence perspective. So we think this title will be really appealing to readers who are interested in learning more about the unfortunate situation that is happening in Eastern Europe right now. All right, next up, we've got It's News to Me by R.G. Belsky, and this goes on sale on October 4th, and this is the 5th novel in his Claire Carlson mystery series. So in this book, when Riley Hunt, a popular student at Manhattan's Easton College, is brutally murdered, it becomes a big story for TV newswoman Claire Carlson. A troubled Afghanistan war veteran is arrested as a suspect, but Claire believes this is more than a simple murder case and fears more lives, including her own, remain in danger. And the protagonist of this novel is a TV newswoman, which is just so fitting that it's written by someone who has all this experience in TV news. R.G. Belsky is an author of crime fiction and a journalist in New York City. He's been a top editor at the New York Post, New York Daily News, Star Magazine, and NBC News. And It's News to Me is the 5th novel in his Claire Carlson series following Yesterday's News, Below the Fold, The Last Scoop, and Beyond the Headlines. And Belsky resides in New York City. Belsky is often really praised for his authenticity that he lends to his books. Readers often feel totally immersed in the world of TV news. They learn all the ins and outs of everything that goes on behind the scenes. And we think this novel is just perfect for fans of Sue Grafton and J.D. Robb. All right, next we have Duplicity by Sean Wilson. This is the 2nd novel in the Brick Kavanaugh mystery series, and it's going on sale on October 18th. So let me give you a synopsis. Investigating a cold case may lead to a new career for retired homicide detective Brian Brick Kavanaugh, who is starting fresh after a traumatic final case. But his work is derailed when his former partner is devastated by his family's disappearance. Friendship and loyalty will be tested as evidence is uncovered, making Brick question how well one can ever know another person. The author's debut novel, Relentless, which happens to be the first book in this series, was favorably reviewed by USA Today, Booklist, and Publishers Weekly. And the author has spent over 30 years working in Washington. Let me tell you more about Sean Wilson. Sean Wilson, which happens to be a pen name, knows Washington, D.C. and knows law enforcement. She's worked in D.C. with the U.S. Marshals Service, the U.S. Attorney's Office, the Federal Bureau of Prisons, and the Administrative Office of the U.S. Courts. She now lives in Chicago, and Duplicity is the second novel following Relentless in the series. We think this is a great book for people interested in learning about police procedures, especially in the Washington, D.C. area. And Duplicity is perfect for fans of Michael Connelly and Robert Craze. Next up, we have The Body Falls by Andrea Carter. This goes on sale on November 1st, and this is the 5th book in the Inishowen Mystery Series. All 5 novels in this series were published initially in Ireland and the UK, and we are so happy to be bringing them over to the United States. Let me give you a synopsis. So, solicitor Ben O'Keefe returns to her practice in Glendara, where a charity cycle event is delayed by torrential rain, trapping the cyclists in town. Then the body of the charity event organizer washes down the mountain, literally falling onto a passing vehicle. Bridges are down and roads are impassable. The town is cut off, a murderer at the heart of the community. Fear predominates, and Ben redoubles her efforts to find the killer before he or she strikes again. Now, the author, Andrea Carter, as is the protagonist in The Body Falls, is a solicitor and barrister and ran the most northerly legal practice in Ireland. So I think you'll be able to tell when you read this book that the author really weaves tiny pieces of herself into the character of Ben, her protagonist. But let me tell you more about Andrea Carter. She's an Irish lawyer turned crime writer. As I said, The Body Falls is the 5th novel in the Inishowen Mystery Series, which is being adapted for a television crime series. Her novels are set on the remote Inishowen Peninsula in County Donegal and feature an inquisitive solicitor named Ben O'Keefe. Andrea Carter lives in Dublin with her husband, documentary maker Jeff Power. So as I said, this is set to become a TV series for Ireland and the UK, and it's supposed to be called Donegal, the Inishowen Mysteries, so it would be super cool if that ends up happening. We think this book is perfect for fans of Louise Penny, Lisa Gardner, and of course, Agatha Christie, because this is a bit of a cozy mystery series. And lastly on my list, we have Doomed Legacy by Matt Coyle. This goes on sale November 15th, and this is the 9th book in his award-winning Rick Cahill PI crime series. So first, let me give you a synopsis before I tell you more about this awesome series. A rage he can't control, a family at its breaking point, killers lurking in the shadows. Battling a deadly disease, Rick Cahill risks his life to find the truth about a friend's death. Can he stay alive long enough to avenge his friend and keep his family together? Is his relentless crusade worth the risk? Matt Coyle has some impressive credentials now as an author. He is a multi-award winner. Let me give you his bio. So Matt Coyle is the best-selling author of the Rick Cahill PI Crime series. He was named the 2021 San Diego Writers Festival Mystery Writer of the Year, and his novels have won the Anthony Award, the Seamus Award, the Lefty Award, the San Diego Book Award, among others. He's also received nominations for numerous Anthony, McCavity, Seamus, and Lefty Awards. Doomed Legacy is the 9th in his award-winning series. Matt is a graduate of UC Santa Barbara and lives in San Diego with his yellow lab, Angus. The author's last book, Last Redemption, received a starred review from Publishers Weekly. It's also received quite a few award nominations this award season, which is super exciting. And the previous title in the series, Blind Vigil, which comes before Last Redemption, received coverage from the Associated Press. And we think this book is perfect for fans of Michael Connelly's Harry Bosch and Lee Child's Jack Reacher. And that is the last book that I had on my list. So thank you so much for having me. All of our books are available on NetGalley and Edelweiss for download and review. Please feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions. And I will turn it back over to our host.
Thank you so much, Faith, and a big thank you to all of today's wonderful panelists. Tomorrow, all attendees will receive an email containing links to today's video recording, slide presentation, title list, and a certificate of completion. For more about Booklist webinars, be sure to visit booklistonline.com/webinars, where you can view archives of past webinars and register for upcoming ones like those you see here. Not yet a subscriber? Pair the print reading experience with the convenience of online access at booklistonline.com and lock in print, online, digital, and archive access by taking advantage of this special webinar offer to get it all for only $75. And for those of you who are unable to join us at ALA's annual conference in DC starting next week, Booklist June issue is currently free and open to all. You can start reading on the Booklist website. Patron-friendly, librarian-approved, and free with a Booklist subscription, Booklist Reader, Booklist's new digital-only magazine highlighting diverse readers' advisory recommendations for all ages, has arrived. To see and share the latest issue, visit booklistonline.com/reader-issues. And we are very excited to share that Booklist, Booklinks, and Booklist Reader recently joined Overdrive Magazine's program in partnership with Zinio, so they are available for your patrons to read in Libby. If you are heading to ALA Annual in Washington, DC next week, Booklist has a ton of events happening during the entire conference to fill all your library and reading needs, including 2 read graphic panels, award shows galore, a program dedicated to fighting censorship in your school or library, a read and rave with library reads, author signings, book giveaways, swag, and more. Stop by Book 2010, or follow our Twitter page at ALA Booklist for the latest on all these events. And if you're going to ALA Annual, don't forget to buy a ticket for the Andrew Carnegie Medals for Excellence in Fiction and Nonfiction program, which is happening Saturday, June 25th at 8 o'clock. We'll hear from distinguished winners, Tom Lin and Hanif Abdurraqib, and our keynote speaker, Congressman Jamie Raskin. Buy your tickets now or at the door. And thank you so much for joining us for today's webinar. One more huge thank you to our panelists and to our sponsors, Severn House, Dundurn Press, Soho Press, and Oceanview Publishing. This concludes today's webinar. See you next time.